welcome to the third annual Children's and Teen Health Summit. I'm your host, Carla Atherton, founder and director of the Lotus Health Project, lotushealthproject.com, where we empower people to get healthy and stay healthy in mind, body, and spirit, and on the social, global, and environmental levels. For this session of the summit, I am excited to be delivering my talk at the speed of life, how our fast pace is making us sick, nuts, and jeopardizing our future generations. Children are quick. They are inherently bright, curious, and innocent. Their brains are in what I call the ooga booga stage, cave person-like in their impulsivity, but highly evolved in creativity and innovation. Children are forever moving, even at rest, and often leave us parents and caregivers reeling in their wake. They are electric with ideas, vibrating with possibility. Children are alive, or at least they should be. More often than not these days, our children are unwell. They feel crappy, have trouble thinking and focusing, don't sleep well or get enough exercise, and diagnoses like ADHD, autism, asthma, eczema, and even diabetes, cancer, and autoimmunity are handed out like name tags. Hello, my name is insomnia. Hello, my name is depression. Hello, my name is tired all of the time. And to top it all off, they are stressed out as a type A Wall Street trader or an air traffic controller strung out on caffeine and cigarettes. And we parents want to know what is happening. Did we have these problems when we were kids? If I recall correctly, there was maybe one child amongst our peers who was sick all the time. ADHD was new on the scene, and autism was extremely rare. And I wasn't aware of one child in our entire school who had cancer or any other life-threatening disease. Not to say that there weren't any kids who got ill, it just wasn't our normal. It just wasn't our everyday reality. We just played outside and ran around wild in the neighborhood, ignoring the calls of our mothers when the sun started to go down. Oh, the good old days. Now, before I start to make this talk irrelevant, claiming that every single generation cites as the good old days when criticizing the lifestyle of the current generation, I want to be clear that it wasn't all roses when I was growing up either. My generation was amongst the first to grow up with processed foods, video games, and chemicals sprayed all over our food, all of the things we see abounding in the reality of our own children these days. Life for my mom or dad wasn't all hunky-dory either, or for my grandmother's generation, but for different reasons. My grandmother was poorer, and my mom and dad grew up in the days when kids were to be seen and not heard. But regardless of the fact that every generation has had difficulties to overcome, we still have to address what is happening today. Our kids are seen and heard, and there is more money going around, but they are sicker, less engaged in life, and heading down a very dangerous path that has potential to make a sick population and polluted earth the new normal. What is different for my own children is that these assaults are compounded, more intense, and more severe. Our children's bodies are amazingly resilient and are built to handle injury, infection, and toxic burden, but the load is becoming too much and their bodies are breaking down. Most every person on the planet cannot escape the chemicals in our environment and in our food. Non-nutritious convenience foods have replaced whole foods. New syndromes and conditions are cropping up all over the place, like nature deficit disorder and digital dementia. We spend more time indoors than in nature, and screens are everywhere, even in waiting rooms and restaurants. Why do we have to watch TV when eating dinner with a friend? So let's return to the problems at hand, the illnesses, diseases, and symptoms our kids are struggling with. Are we really creating new illnesses by the way we live? Some might say that these diagnoses are given more frequently now because we know now more than we did before and can identify the problems, and that may be true to some degree and in some circumstances. What we do know is that more children are being diagnosed with diseases such as cancer and autoimmunity, as well as conditions that are on some sort of spectrum that are not diagnosable as a disease that we can do a physical test for. These conditions are a set of symptoms with multiple causes. When looking at the overall picture of the health of our kids, we are failing to thrive. Even if you don't have the time to look at the science, read the studies, or get a degree in medicine just to be able to parent your children, your spidey senses just have to be tingling. Just look around you. Kids are overweight, they have dark circles under their eyes, they are unfocused and unmotivated, they are spending more time in front of screens than they are spending outside in parks or at the pool. They are not sleeping well, they are tired and stressed out and getting old before their time. We parents know that something is not right, but are not always empowered enough to do something about it. It's like anything in life that requires a change. We can coast along, surviving until it becomes critical that we make a radical shift, until our lives are at stake. We are learning that the situation for our kids is reaching that critical point. Can I be really blunt here and say that the house is burning down, we have turned the smoke alarm off, and our kids are still inside? So why are our children sick, tired, and losing their youthful vitality? Well, two things: stress and inattention to the things that really matter due to our current speed of life. So two things: stress and inattention to the things that really matter due to our current speed of life. Okay, so remember what I said about kids being sick? What I meant was that they were bright and alive, not that they should be rushed and pressured, hurried, and burnt out. But they are these days. It is not uncommon for me to hear a 10-year-old tell me she is stressed out, that she is afraid of becoming an adult, or that she is overwhelmed with what she has to do in that day. Why should our kids be filled with such fear and anxiety? Life can be hard, yes, but why are we creating difficulties where there don't need to be any? Stress 101. Not only is stress caused by mental emotional issues, but can also come from physical stressors such as illnesses, toxicity, and infection, which are all equally damaging to your child's body, brain, and central nervous system. His body can't tell the difference between the stress that is caused by a late assignment at school, a shot of chemicals and sugar from a sports drink he drank, or a bear chasing him. Yes, different chemical reactions can take place. For instance, sugar causes a stress response because of its effect on blood sugar levels and hormone release, but the stress response is still the same. We need a stress response in order for our survival when getting away from danger, or when you need to muster the stamina to do something that requires all of the strength and energy that you have. These instances happen on occasion during the course of your child's life. But when your child's stress becomes chronic, which is happening more often than not these days, her nervous system is in an overdrive with the pedal to the metal at all times. We were not designed for this kind of stress, and when we experience chronic stress that is experienced all the time for long periods of time, something is bound to break down. Chronic stress affects every single process in the body. Because it diverts energy away from other non-essential processes in your child's body, it slows digestion and cognition and weakens immunity. So what happens when your kids don't digest? They don't assimilate their nutrients properly, nutrients needed to give them strength, the ability to think, energy to do everyday tasks. What happens when your kids' immune systems are compromised? You open the door to cancers, flus, and infection due to low functioning immune system, as well as autoimmunity, which is due to a hyper-responsive, confused immune system. Do you see how this stress cascade is so important to address? Item 2, the speed at which we live also leaves no time for us to slow down and focus on our family and friend relationships, on what we eat, on giving our bodies rest when they need it, and exercise when that is warranted as well. Some kids are so rushed or distracted that they forget to eat or mindlessly eat junk food out of chemical-laden plastic bags. We busy adults do this as well. We eat in cars, standing up, in fast food restaurants, and often we don't even know what it is we are eating because we didn't grow it in our own gardens or we didn't prepare it in our own kitchens. We trust that what we find in the grocery stores will nourish us and that the food we order in restaurants will bring us health. But the ugly truth is that it doesn't. The truth is that most restaurants do what they have to do to make a profit, Many just can't afford to cook with quality oils or buy organic food, and many don't even read the labels on the stuff they are serving. Sorry, but they don't. Big food companies are not in the business of nutrition. They are in the business of profit, of making money for the investors. The video game producers are interested in the sales of entertainment, not physical fitness or natural play. The chemical companies to make plastics so that food storage is more convenient, etc., etc., etc. But I don't want to talk about parents as being the victimized good guys and the big companies as the evil villains. My point is that we have to slow down to pay attention because no one is doing that for us. Convenience is not, in the long run, convenient. It's time to slow down to take notice. So let's move on from talking about what not to do to what to do, what we all would love to embrace as a new way, or I guess a return to some of the old ways, to raise truly healthy families. What are the things that give health but take time and focus? Paying attention to your body and your children's bodies. When you and your kids need rest and repair, when symptoms are telling you that there is something deeper that you need to investigate. Stress relief, when you and your kids need to stop and go for a walk, meditate, be mindful, play and think and create. Avoiding the trap of focusing on the past, when you or your kids make a mistake or get stuck in old patterns. Avoiding worrying about the future, when you or your kids obsess over and fear what is to come, which is useless, by the way, because we never know what might be anyway. Ignoring the now. When we live in the past or future, we miss what we have today. So this is the critical point here and is the most detrimental thing that parents can teach their children, to not live in the now. To worry, to overschedule, to focus on past mistakes, to get stuck in protocols and old patterns, and to overplan for the future. But our kids can teach us that living for today, being flexible, going with the flow, creating new ways of being every day, and stopping to take a breath can relieve stress, increase health and happiness, help us to be in our lives instead of rushing through them. What goes wrong when we are moving at the speed of light, and what are we teaching our kids about adulthood? Well, we're teaching our kids that adulthood is boring, that it is stressful and serious and joyless. As I'm saying that, I'm furrowing my brow quite deeply. And as our children are becoming more and more stressed and adopting some of these beliefs and lifestyle practices, they are getting illnesses once only associated with adults and aging. And I don't think that's okay. By believing these things ourselves, we are teaching them to our children to question themselves, to follow protocol without question, to dumb down, to focus on the past, worry about the future, overschedule, and check out. To not take the time to take care of themselves because this is what you do when you grow up. To see work as bad, to see health as a chore, to see doing good deeds as an act of pious charity and not a joyful act of free will. If we don't slow down, we cannot see the joy, feel the gratitude, notice the problems so that we can fix them. So again, how can our children teach us? Health is something we are born knowing how to maintain. Healthful practices are inherent to children. Children naturally move and play. They sleep when they need to, eat when they are hungry, say no when they don't want to do something, and ask for what they need until they get it. I know you parents are nodding your heads to that. So somewhere along the way, our society has created a disconnect between that vital wisdom we are born with and our human experience that should be enjoyed by both young and old alike, and has somehow associated stress and speeding through each day with growing up. How many times did you hear from the previous generation that it's time to grow up and enter the real world? How many times have you said that to your own kids? But the real world is what we make it. The pressures we put on our own selves and our children, and the stress is literally killing us. What can we do? Well, for starters, slow down. Have meals together. Return to the family table. Unplug from distracting electronics and devices and TV, settle your nervous systems, reset your brains, and leave room for silence, conversation, and creativity. Rest and relax more and have some fun. Lots of it. Practice checking in with each other, not checking out, filling up your time and their time with stuff to do. Practice extreme self-care. Make sure that you have good nutrition, as your food makes up the building blocks of life. You and your family deserve better than that fast food burger some dude slapped together from sawdust and processed meat. Exercise and move. Make physical activity just something that you naturally do every day as much as possible. Cut the schedule. Take breaks. Your kids will be fine if they don't take piano lessons or opt to play soccer in the park instead of on the premier team. Question what you are running for or from. Lower expectations for the to-do list and raise them for the to-be list. And did I say slow down? Slow down for everything, from walking to eating to working to learning. And even when you are doing something quickly, like playing football or meeting a deadline, there can still be slowing down to actually give yourself the time to focus and pay attention to what you and your children are experiencing. Do you see what I mean? This slowing down doesn't mean to stop, but to be more mindful while you are living. Let's move away from doing things that don't matter and take from our family's vitality. Let's move away from going through the motions of life. Remember that the to-do list is never done, so why rush through every task as if our lives depend on it? Our lives actually depend on a slowing down. Let's adjust what we define as the speed of life. It can be fast like our children can make it, but it can also be slow in the time spent at the beach or in bed smelling the sweet head of your newborn. Stop, parents, and remember those moments. The sweet smell of your child's newborn head and the fuzzy hair that tickles you. Remember that. Children can also slow us down, or better yet, help us to focus on the details of life. How many times have you heard your 5-year-old say things like, "Look at those clouds, Mom. They look like galloping horses." Or, "There are 47 petals on that flower, Dad, but only one is orange," when you hadn't even noticed there was something there to notice. Children know what they want. They know what they need. They know what they like and don't like, what they want to do and don't want to do. They see what we adults can ignore, because while they are quick and bright, they are also focused on what matters to them and are listening to the natural world around them. If we don't taint that inherent wisdom, they can teach us. While we keep them from impulsively jumping off of cliffs, they can teach us to sit on the shore to find ourselves and each other. They can help us return to our inherent right to just be as a human being. They can help us to redefine the speed of life at which we live. Our children are wise, as are our inner children, as were the children we once were. Let them lead us into health.